in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. FLSD policy 0165.1. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And if we don't mind, I will read our new mission. Our new mission is to foster a community of learning and belonging. Our vision is to be a learning community centered on strengths and possibilities to empower our students and staff to think critically, grow intellectually, and live with integrity. All right, moving on to item 3, additions to and approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
What?
You're fine.
Okay. Jamie moved?
I moved. Second.
Okay. Do we have any additions to the agenda?
Yes, we have a carry-on. We have additional items being added to item 7 and item 10.
All right. So item 7, review of action steps. We have a few added on. And then under 10, we have some policies that need to be added on for approval. Not the first read, second read, approval. Anything else? All right. All those in favor of approving the agenda with the additions, please indicate with aye. Aye. Approved. Item 4, approval of minutes from the special meetings of July 27th, July 28th, August 8th, and August 12th. We were very busy. I will move. Do we have any adjustments or edits that need to be made? All right. All
There's
those.
an Excel document included as well that you emailed.
I sent it. Yeah, that will
So that'll
be.
be part of the minutes.
Yes, that is the July 28th.
Got it.
It's added onto there. All right. All those in favor of approving the minutes from all of the special meetings, please indicate with aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion or item passes. Item 5, administrator's report.
All right. So, given that it's August and the beginning of the year, I thought I'd walk us through our updated strategic plan. This is a pretty high-level overview. It was sent out to the community today and can be found on our website with a link.
This or the actual plan?
The actual plan. So I'm going to start. It is a 3-year strategic plan. It was developed last year in partnership with Tom Merton and Dr. Mary Phillips. They worked through several surveys, community engagement, student engagements, and focus groups. So that is where the input came from. There were a series, I think, in total of 10 opportunities for people to give input beyond the survey. And so this is what we came up with. Okay, maybe I need to be closer.
I bet it's to your computer.
No, or I tried it, but I'll
Okay.
just come around this back.
Sorry.
Oh, there it goes. All right. Maybe I just need to be close. So this quote, it just resonates with me and the work that we do every day here. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has, Margaret Mead. And that to me is what we are. We are a small group of people here in Finneytown, a small community that come together to impact the outcomes of our students and the opportunities they have access to. So this goes through what the process looked like. So we started the initial work last year in September. And then in October, we began to looking at, okay, we had the survey data. We used that to help drive the focus group questions and the engagements that happened with students, staff, the board, the administration, the community. And then in October, November, and December, and January, well, let me step back. October, November was when we did the analysis of that. What did we learn? What were the themes? And then in December and January, we started to form, okay, what does this look like? February was the actual kind of working through the wording, coming up with the defined areas of focus, and then what were the strategies and the objectives that would lead that work. And then April and May, really including this presentation, really to July, we finalized and prepared for the preparation and presentation of the strategic plan. Okay, so as Lindsay had said, our mission and vision our mission did change. Our vision just had some tweaks to it, and our why stayed consistent. So our mission is to foster a community of learning belonging. That is truly what we try to do every single day in every single space within the district, is we bring people together, we learn together, and we want everyone to feel like they have a voice and they belong to the learning community. Our vision is to be a learning community centered on strengths and possibilities. We added the strengths and possibilities because our system in education is often set up to focus on deficits, and we really want to shift that narrative because we believe all of our students and staff have gifts and talents, and we want to elevate those while still addressing our areas of growth and development. But centered on strengths and possibilities to empower our students and staff to think critically, grow intellectually, and live with integrity. And then our why, which was developed a few years ago but still remains constant, to nurture each person's sense of self so they know they matter. And then our core values and beliefs are fairly consistent to what we had in our last strategic plan, but we value diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. We are committed to learning. Unlearning, I often get asked, what does unlearning mean? A lot of times, whether it's because of where we were raised, what we were taught, what we've heard, we've developed patterns of thinking that are no longer consistent with either our way of knowing or our way of interacting with people, and so sometimes we have to unlearn habits or knowledge. So we are committed to learning, unlearning, rethinking, and engaging in conversations so each individual has the opportunity to achieve and succeed. We believe in fostering a safe, accepting, and restorative community. We believe in fostering a collaborative learning community that focuses on identifying, enhancing, and empowering individual gifts through project-based learning. And we are committed to fiscal responsibility and good stewardship to maintain the trust and confidence of our stakeholders. So I'm not going to read through all this because there's a lot of language here, but our 3 areas of focus, number 1 is student, staff, and community learning. A lot of times, and in our last strategic plan, we focused a lot on student outcomes. Well, the way to impact student outcomes is by how we, the adults, show up in the different spaces, in our instruction, in our connection and communication. So we really thought that we needed to extend that to all of our learning and all of our connection and collaboration. So that is a shift for us. The measures all the way in the right-hand column, those are things that I will share out with the board and the community as guidance on how we're doing. Are we meeting our marks? Are we falling short? And then what adjustments are we making? The second area of focus, community and connection. This really fosters on when we gather with other people. Since the beginning of the year, we've had our fall sports kickoff event. We had Back to School Bash, which we didn't sponsor, PTA sponsored. But we also had our open houses last evening. We've had kindergarten camp. We've had a lot of events where we've brought people in and gathered. Just an example of our intentionality around hosting and connecting with our community. And so again, the measures are there on the right-hand column. And then lastly, facilities and fiscal stewardship. Facilities is a big area for us over the next 3 years. We'll be we will be breaking ground on August 30th, and then hopefully in 2 years in the fall, opening a new secondary campus with air conditioning, which I know our staff will greatly appreciate along with our students. But that whole process requires certain discernment, making good choices that allow us not only to do the building, but maintain our buildings and continue to make improvements while also for as long as possible, staying away from going back to the community for more additional funds. So what are those choices and decisions we need to make to be good stewards? All right. 4 main objectives that fall under our student, staff, and community learning. And like I said, on the website, there's a more detailed outline of these. But the first, continuous collaborative learning and experimentation to foster our students' academic and social growth. And so one of the things we know is we do better as adults when we come together and collaborate with one another around instruction, around discipline, around data, when we're looking at our students' data. And so we're really trying to bring people together because we think we can improve and do a better job there. Increased proficiency in our grade level cohorts. This is measured by state performance tests. We're hoping to increase 15% or more by the end of the 26-27 school year in math and language arts and reading. And then collaborative reflection, observation, and feedback processes to enhance student support and success. And what we mean by this is after we have a student meeting, after we have a discipline incident, how are we reflecting on how the adults process that? How are we observing each other maybe when we're implementing a behavior plan? What is the feedback process? How do we get better? And to make sure that we're always showing up the best we can. So working on those processes. And then facilitating 10 community gatherings annually that are facilitated by students and staff to learn and increase our collective ownership of our work. Each person in our community, whether it's a student, staff, community member, it's going to take all of us to achieve everything that's within our community, our strategic plan. And so we want to make space and show that each person's contribution does matter and will get us further. Already we've had students help facilitate the sports kickoff event. We will have students, our YAC is getting ready to kick off again once school starts back up. So those things are already in process, as well as our first Pro Action Cafe. Quick shout out, September 12th. So yeah, exciting stuff there. All right, community and connection. Host gatherings. So as mentioned, that's one of the things I feel like we really excel at is bringing people together around the things that matter to us. And so we'll continue to find opportunities to do that this year and hopefully add additional ones. We are going to prioritize community building within and beyond the classroom. We know kids learn best when they have a real connection to the teacher in the classroom. And so we really want to focus on building that connection between our students and staff. And then a comprehensive communication plan to share information to staff, students, families, and the broader community. Our principals send out weekly newsletters. I send out a monthly memo to the staff. And then we also have the community update that went out today to all community members. So continuing to working on that and making sure we're getting our story and information out there. And then facilities and fiscal stewardship. We're going to strategically design and construct facilities that prioritize our students' needs, that focus on facilitating high quality programming, accommodate for our future growth and needs, and align with the long-term objectives of the district. Demonstrate fiscal prudence by procuring funding from diverse channels to ensure long-term sustainability. We always think whenever we're in conversations, we don't want a 5-year solution, we want a 50-year solution, and how do we plan for that and get that? So thereby upholding the district's missions and objectives. All right, that is the brief overview. The much more detailed plan, like I said, can be found on the website. And then we also have a flyer that we plan to send home to families and make available that is 1 page front and back, kind of synopsis of it. So, yeah. All right, I do have a few other items beyond the strategic plan.
Does anyone have any questions on the strategic plan? I think you're not going to get a lot of questions from us here, but I'm sure the community will have them at one point, and can reach out with them, or to any of us, we can be happy to talk about it individually. I'm really excited. I think just even listening to that, all the things that I have already seen change going into this year that match what we've already said that we want as our goals. So I'm really excited with the work that we put into it.
I am too. I think it does help focus us on what's important and what we're giving our time and attention to, and help us put other things. It's not a no, it's just a not now. So in addition to that, a couple items I did want to share with the board is, and a reminder to the community, we do have the groundbreaking event on August 30th. It will start at 5:30, and then it will be followed by our football game, home opener. In addition, we have alumni weekend, so we'll have a lot of alumni guests there who will also be participating in the groundbreaking ceremony. It should be a great celebration. So please come and join. The board handbook, in a recent conversation that Seth and I had, it came up, our board handbook probably needs a little updating.
Yep.
So I shared that with all of you recently, and thought we could look at that more in depth in September at September's regular meeting and figure out what that needs to look like, those updates. We did have also our new staff onboarding last week. We have, I believe, 20 new staff members between both buildings. We had a great turnout, positive feedback from everybody who participated. And then we had our welcome back breakfast yesterday that was hosted by the PTA. Shout out to both the Finneytown Elementary and the Finneytown Secondary Campus PTAs. They always take care of us and always show up. And we gathered and had great welcome back, a lot of energy in both buildings. So we're excited about that. Our kids start back tomorrow, half at the elementary, all of them at secondary. And then the other area that I wanted to bring up that we talked about in the retreat is the secondary campus project and timelines. So we had a core meeting this past Thursday, and during that we talked about the timeline during winter break to bring down the district office, help me out here if I forget anything, 300 building, part of the locker rooms. And in that conversation, they essentially have 2 weeks to do the demolition. In that, with the holidays that happen and possibly the weather, we're looking at a very tight timeline that with that, it would also cost us to go over budget and beyond what it could be. So we are recommending to the board that, in sharing that, our plan, with feedback obviously, would be to extend winter break and use 5 calamity days that following week. The staff, we would give 2 calamity days to, and then they already, that Friday was a professional learning day, and so instead of just the one, we give 3 days professional learning. I know we've had recent conversations when you ask our staff what they need, they always say time to plan and collaborate, so we feel like this is an opportunity for that. So, but also giving them a couple of days extended time with their families as well. So, we recognize the importance, if we move in this direction, of getting that information out to our community as quickly as possible for planning purposes. The reality of it is we can do it now, but there is a chance we're going to have to do it regardless. Right now, based on the timeline we know, and we need to make the decision now, because if we bid it on a 2-week timeline versus bidding it on a 3-week timeline, those bids look very different. And so if we can tell them, yes, we're going to extend it 3 weeks, then we get the bidding that would be more on par for what was the expected budget of the project.
Is the cost difference hundreds of thousands of dollars?
Not hundreds, but tens.
Tens of thousands of dollars? Okay. And how many calamity days do we get from the state? Is it just the 5s? Do we use them all up? So if we have to use them, we'll add on to the end of the school year?
So, interesting question. So we've been digging into this quite a bit. We switched, the state of Ohio switched from days to hours several years ago. We never made any adjustments. Right now, based on the hours that we're required to attend at the elementary versus secondary. We are 17 days over in the amount of hours we have at the elementary and 15 at the secondary. So we could have 15 calamity days and not have to make up any time. So 5 days, we still have quite a bit of cushion if we had bad weather.
So it's not even a third.
It's not even.
So why are we over that many? I mean, that's probably, it's definitely a good thing for our students to be in the classroom.
I think that brings up another point. I think this year, one of the things I'd like to have ongoing conversation with the community, staff, and students about is reimagining the length of our school day, or our school calendar, or our start date, end date, all those pieces, because I think there's probably a better solution than what we're currently doing. We're doing what we're doing. The reason we never changed is because it's what we've always done. And it does require board action if we do a reduction of hours, or it won't require board action if we just redistribute them differently. So I think that's a conversation that I'd like to have ongoing throughout this year. I don't have a thought of what it could be, but there are a lot of districts that have different amounts of time they're in school. Some use early release, late start. Some have 4-day school weeks, 1 day with staff in session. There are a lot of different options that we can consider.
So you get to unlearn, right? And relearn.
What's that?
You get to unlearn and relearn.
We get to unlearn
This
and
school
relearn.
day.
I'd be curious, if we could look back, going back 30 years and compare, is our time in school like the same it was 30 years ago? Have there been any other changes with Finneytown in the past 30 years with our hours or days? Like, I'm just thinking historically, I mean, so.
In the past 26, no.
Not in the past 20 years.
Okay. Okay. I was just thinking.
Give me a few years.
Yeah.
Okay, so it'd be a pretty major change, but it could be an opportunity.
Yes.
Okay.
And I do think, while that hasn't changed, a lot of other dynamics have changed.
Yes.
And so I think there is a lot to consider in terms of what makes sense for our students, as well as our community and staff. So I think it's a good conversation to have.
So we talked about this quite a lot at the retreat, and you and I have talked it a few times. I think using the Pro Action Cafe, and maybe one of the things that you and I should do is kind of, I know the Pro Action Cafe is not necessarily planned, but if we could host a topic, there's 5 of them a year, this would be one of the topics that I would like to talk about, just about every single one of them in some form, and start really figuring out what the community likes. And if we can put that out there with the Pro Action Cafe announcement, people can come when they're interested and invested.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have any other questions for Dr. Biggs?
The calamity days do not require board action. However, I just want to make sure moving forward, are there any doubts or reservations? Because if there are not, we're going to move forward with communicating that to the community and to staff.
I think I'm okay with it. I mean, I know at the very beginning of the school year, we had some concerns about when we delayed at the beginning of last year with childcare. That would probably be the same problem in the winter. So would there be something that we would need, some sort of partnership that we would need to foster to help with that, or to direct families that direction? Or is the winter not as much of an issue for childcare? I would think it's the same.
I would think it's going to be about the same, and I do think we should try to find a partner or some sort of option for the younger kids. I had another point with it
I mean, it
too.
sounds like we have to do this, so
Yes.
it seems to make sense to do.
But I also think telling people as soon as we can.
Yeah.
That makes a huge
That gives them the
difference.
most time to make up for that.
It does.
Which will be
Or
tomorrow.
extend their vacations. Or extend, I mean, if we tell them, people are going to start making plans, so we won't be able
Yeah.
to change it. People might decide to stay with family somewhere for another week.
Which is
Yes.
part of the reason we want to get it out.
And it being in January, if people have paid time off and their clock resets in January, I know that that's something that I'm looking at.
Okay,
So.
that's a really good point, okay.
Yes.
Give them more time.
So they might take the time off then.
And we
Yes.
can learn what people are saying about it.
Yes, we have time to figure it out.
Okay.
I'm for it. I'm okay with it.
And I will move forward with that communication tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay. And I believe that is all.
Okay, moving on to item 6, public address. Did we have anyone, I know, Matt, do you want to speak?
Whoever took care of the weather yesterday was really did a good job on it. It's a beautiful day. It's really good outside, better than outside in the building. I got some things I want to talk about today. Hopefully I can get in. I gave you, it's amazing how things work out. You know, I have a certain problem with writing, and if you guys can't read, I try to do it just in case. In the back of mine, it's got, last time I came to the meeting, I didn't take it, but I got the typed in version on part of it. So I said, okay, well, what I want to talk about is, and I hope I can say this without, I'm not saying you can't tell other people, but I'm kind of saying it's somewhat in confidence a little bit, because it's got some parts of it that are not really nice. But you know, you guys are, I've said before, a lot of people don't know what they don't know, and we keep saying that. And I think we think we're still living in the 70s or 60s or 80s, where everything was nice, and I like to think my house was kind of like Donna Reed, you know, or I was in the area. That's kind of the life I had. And you know, I retired and moved down here. We got involved in social issues. And one way or another, we ended up with big custody, 3 kids, one of which was graduated from the east side of the river down here, Riverview East, I think it was. She graduated there, but it's only because during her at the end of her sophomore year, I checked her credits. You know, she might be behind graduate. She didn't have any math, English, or social studies credits. So we'll do it over the summer because you guys had that computer way of catching up. My wife and I got her 7 credits in one summer. So she did graduate. She's left, and she's still part of our family. You know, it's some bad thing. You know, we think we know what trauma is. And you know, trauma for me when I grew up was not having enough ice cream in the freezer. That was my trauma. And you know, these guys, you know, the teacher will say sometimes, these guys they got a tough family, tough backgrounds. That's about all we know about it. Again, you don't know what you don't know, and you probably just as well as you don't. But we ended up taking custody of 3 children, girls, and we were part of Safe Families, which is another organization that just takes temporary care of kids that are, for example, if a mother was, sometimes a girl will get pregnant in high school, you know, and they don't have a real safety net. And so we would take them for a couple of weeks, like a weekend while mom was in the hospital, or maybe she delivered. Because you know, there are big cases of girls delivering babies, and they take the children they already have to the session area in the hospital and say, here's a couple bucks. If you get hungry, take food there. If they stay there until the mother delivers. Well, that would be a case where we would take them on a small time basis for the weekend or something like that. We got involved with these 3 girls, partway through one of the sessions, and we had Mike on the weekend. Mother was really sick and had to go in the hospital for a couple of days, and finally got to the point where they told us that she was going to die. So we had to go through the process of telling the kids that their mother was going to die, and they had to sit there and watch her die, which wasn't pleasant. And they asked, people from Safe Families asked her, we got everything set when it happens. You know, wills and stuff like that. Well, she wouldn't have anything like that. So they were put together. She says, I want them to live with the Wilbers. So when I came around last night, I said, well, there's going to be some confusion here. My wife and I were Matt Wilbur and Julie Wilbur. First one was Kanaja Mott. Second one was Shauna Tinsley. Third one was Maya Walton. 3 last names. None of them know their fathers. And one's got a father in prison. Tried to make contact with her while we had her. Second one turned out real well, and probably only alive because of the people in the school system. Shauna Tinsley. I think she wanted to become a wrestler out of spite. She was at the point where she wanted to shock us. You know, well, she became a wrestler and I became a volunteer wrestling coach. I don't know anything about wrestling. But you know, honestly, she still will not hold a conversation with me at all. But you know, when I tried to get involved in the school system, and Adam Coffey finally let me in.
You have 1 minute.
Okay. Well, I suppose I have another family, so I thought another father, so we have 10 minutes between us. Anyway, she's done really well. She's been 2 times to the state. She's always a bridesmaid, not the bridge. She's one step away from getting to the state. She was an alternate, I guess. She's gone to the national finals twice in Fargo, West Virginia. And this summer, she trained in Europe. And, you know, Adam came to us and said, what do you think about doing that? I said, well, we can't afford to do that. And you guys didn't, but between the PTO and some other volunteers, sure it costs like a cover. She spent 2 weeks in Germany and kind of pre-Olympic type, Switzerland and France. So, you know, it's all, and she'll tell you, wrestling has saved her life. And the thing is, there are a lot of kids out there like that. And you know, I just hope you'll find them, because otherwise you're gonna lose them. Man, I didn't see that coming. But anyway, and the other thing I want to tell you is, we've got 1 girl that's coming in, at least 1 girl that's coming into the school system this year, because their father was a big-time wrestler, and they're coming here to enroll because they saw what China was going through, and how she was treated, how she would learn, and so they're coming here for that particular reason.
Your 5 minutes
So,
is up.
so I'll go with that. So
Thank you.
Thank you. I apologize, I was supposed to read,
I already know that rule.
I know, you know them well.
I wish the father was here because he would have in a 5-minute time so.
Do we have any other speakers? Okay. All right, then we will move on to item number 7, review of the action steps from last month. So number 1 is distribution of the Neola policy updates and revisions to Board of Education. That is done. And then looking at our carry-on, item number 2, beyond differences, we'll meet to design what it will look like as a centralized function over all the support organizations, ProAction Cafe, key communicators. I know Seth and Jalicia, you guys are going to meet with Dr. Banks and Mr. Meyer. Do we have that scheduled? Tomorrow.
Tomorrow at 4:00.
All right. Excellent. Can't wait to hear about that. Number 3, a recommendation for adjusting the winter break schedule. That is done. Number 4, the Finance Committee will meet and recommend targets for budgeting by November. It's going to be Mr. Oliverio, Dr. Banks, and the Finance Committee. Do we have that scheduled? Okay. Number 5, the communication policy proposal will be included in the August regular meeting. That is done. And number 6, a meeting will be set up to draft recommended administrative guideline additions for the community policy to further guide staff on when it is and is not appropriate to have discussions with the board. That one's done. All right. All right, so that leaves just one other item on there. That was a big list, so good job, guys. Moving on to number 8, board coordination matters. So does anyone want to go first?
Happy, unless you want to go first?
You go for it.
Okay, I'll start. So the Springfield Township meeting, I have some things that were shared there that are up, pretty significant. They did share some things related to a fire department levy. I'll get that in a minute. But also a little bit of discussion was had about the Whitaker property. So I'll share a little bit about that, but not a whole lot, since that's really our discussion that we might have at a future date. I did want to share with board members your JEDS applications, if you would like your $22 back from your board taxes that you paid to the township for the JEDS program. Make sure that you submit that in the next week or 2 because they're due by September 2nd. That would go for anyone else that lives and works in the township. Otherwise, you will not get your money back. Border Park now has benches, so if you're walking your dog there and want to take a break, there's a place to sit down. There's a new playground at Stephanie Hummer, although I will say to parents that are watching this, I took my kids there, and I would say it's probably not safe for students that are younger than 5th or 6th grade, and it does say that on the playground, but it was actually, I went to the top of it, and I was actually scared myself, because if I fell off there, I'd probably break my neck. So it's really a cool playground, just maybe keep that for your older children. There will be an opening ceremony for that in a play date on September 10th from 10 a.m. to noon. Also, apparently this might be a question for Dr. Banks, but is our resource officer on leave currently?
No, we have a different resource officer this
Okay.
year, Officer Bill Summy, who subbed when our
Got it.
resource officer, Mr. Taylor, went out last year. So
Okay.
Summy's returning
Okay.
and is working with us.
And Officer Taylor's not returning at this
Yeah.
point? Okay. Because
Yeah.
they just said something about how that SRO was on leave and
Yeah.
the one that was there last year, and that there's one that's subbing that's doing a good job.
Yeah.
Okay. Chris Gilbert also shared that the township went out to bid for electric and gas, and that a 30% decrease in natural gas rates are expected, so your gas bills should be going down soon. The township determined that it's necessary to place a levy for the fire department on the ballot in November for 3.5 mils. And then the current 1 mil levy that expires in 2027 will not be removed until 2027. But when it is removed, the net effect will be 2.5 mils, which for until 2027, it'll be an additional $123 per $100,000 of valuation. But after 2027, it will be a $35 drop off, so a net effect of $95 per 100,000. So that will be on the ballot in November for the fire services. Chris Gilbert shared that they're not allowed to commingle funds, so those funds would only be able to go to the fire department. That's not to add new personnel or equipment, it is just to maintain current levels of service. The board also shared that given the passing of issue 2 last year, that they're looking at lifting the moratorium on marijuana dispensaries. However, there are restrictions on how close those are allowed to be to schools, so there might not be a concern for parents as far as its relationship to schools. But there was a lot of discussion about this during a recorded meeting, probably the most that I've ever seen from township trustees, and it looks like they're planning on lifting that moratorium. There's also some discussion about traffic on Winton Road from someone that lives on Winton Road, and they shared that the township does not have the authority to put speed bumps on Winton Road and cannot add traffic lights, which I think we know as a school district that we can't just add traffic lights without the county approving it. They have to do a traffic study. And then they also shared that there was some sort of ongoing discussion with the school district, and Chris Gilbert said that the ball is in our court related to stuff related to the Whitaker property. So Chris is sharing about that as a township, and he did mention that. So he said that there was some sort of invitation. Anyway, so there may be some sort of discussion going on about that. But for those that did not watch it, he did announce publicly that that was going to be going on. So I don't know when that meeting is occurring, but and that's all I have to say about that.
Do you want us to come back to you? I'm just checking.
Yeah, sorry I'm late.
No, you're fine. All right, I will go ahead and go. So there's a couple things to point out. One, Ohio sent out required board trainings for this year. They are due to be done by October 31st. I think we all get the same ones. And I got the notification for Ohio ethics law training and fraud reporting are the 2 that we have to have done by October 31st. So please make sure you get those done. Otherwise, we'll have to make Grant call you. I do have the calendar. One of the follow-ups was that I would start bringing the calendar. I did not have a printer set up, so I have the next 6 events from the calendar. It'll cover us through October 11th. For the community to know, we put together a centralized calendar of all the school events that we would like to have board presence, so that we are engaging with the community and available and supporting our students, and we're doing it efficiently. So we're not, one of us isn't going to everything and burning out, and we're all sharing the load. The first one on the calendar is August 30th. That is the groundbreaking ceremony. We are all invited to that. I think we are all well aware of that.
Then how should we dress for the event? I know that we hadn't discussed
That's a
it.
good question.
Hard hat and overalls.
And we're wearing hard hats and we're shoveling, so I plan on wearing probably jeans and we have Pennytown shirts.
Well, thanks for saying that.
Yeah, so I
Do we have
plan
matching
on-
shirts?
Huh?
Do we have matching shirts?
I'll work on that. I'll get back to you.
Okay, thank you for asking that, because I would not have dressed appropriately, I'm sure. Okay. Yes.
This is the first time I dressed more.
The next item on the calendar is the Pro Action Cafe on September 12th. It is from 5 to 7 p.m. Seth, you are already signed up, and then I have not signed up yet, but I was planning on signing up as well. Did anyone else want to attend? You don't have to know now. You can all sign up. September 26th is the homecoming parade. That is one where we are all invited to be in the parade. Logistics need to be determined because that was Tony's big thing. So we can figure that out. And then September 27th is actually homecoming for us to sign up for. And then in October, we have October 10th is Volley for the Cure, and October 11th is Fall Senior Night. So I have not looked at my calendar for October. I would like to try and go to both of those events. And as well, homecoming, we'll see if we can go to that as well.
Do we know when senior nights are in sports?
Fall Senior Night will cover almost all the sports. It has a list.
The individual?
The individual ones, I don't know if they were on there, but...
No, it's not on the calendar.
Oh, it's not on the calendar
I'll
either.
discuss this.
I will talk to Boosters and Mr. Womack and see if we can get those.
Also, the FE's student council, they'll have their kindergarten and their, not kindergarten, K through 3 movie nights, and also the 4th through 6th grade socials. They just sent out the calendar. Actually, I saw the email today, so maybe yesterday or today.
Okay.
And I'll get that to you so you can have that too.
Perfect. Thank you. Boosters, I did not go to the meeting this month because I went to FAA and they happened to be at the same time. Boosters this year is celebrating 65 years of service to the district. It's pretty big. So you're probably going to see that a little bit. Some of the things going on that they're looking at, they are still looking for a secretary. So if anyone is interested in volunteering with the Boosters, it's a great opportunity to get involved. The fall kickoff happened and it looked like it was a great success. I know I was not able to go. I was unavailable. Okay. And then, as we have already said, August 30th, we have the first home football game, as well as the groundbreaking, and it is alumni weekend. And then for the FAA meeting, it was mostly just business as usual, but we are celebrating quite a lot of students signed up for soccer. We had about 200, which is a very impressive number, so. And that's all I know.
I have nothing to add for coordination.
Okay. I did attend the sports kickoff. It did a great. Everyone did a great job. So you and your team, Mr. Wormack and his team, the coaches and his support staff, and I also want to thank the fan or the alumni network who was working the grill. So. A lot of people came in support. It was looked very well attended as well. Parents were, a lot of athletes, a lot of parents actually came. I do not know how many people did actually, give it to you, I think it was myself. I don't know how many people actually signed up for concessions, but I did give you guys a white little piece of paper. And if you are interested in signing up for being a member of Boosters and also working concessions, they will love to have more volunteers. It is oddly fun, to quote some people out there, oddly fun to actually work the concessions and actually, especially get a chance to, a different perspective of watching the games, especially on the soccer fields and the football field. I like that perspective. And so the concessions is fun, get a chance to see all the kids, get a chance to see some teachers as well, so I do suggest at least grab one time to do that, to show face and show support to our boosters who are working their tails off, and also our students, our student athletes who are playing as hard as they can and enjoying their sports hopefully.
I was thinking that maybe as a group we could do a concession stand together, if you would like. I can put together an email asking which night you guys would be available and see about with the boosters which one I think would be a good opportunity where they need a lot of help. But I think that would be an excellent opportunity for us.
I asked him sometime, can you show, if you didn't sign up, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, don't feel like I can't go back and sign up. But.
Well, I'm sure they always will like to have help and support on that. I did also give you the fall calendars. I think I put it on the desk over there. That is the high school, all the high school schedules, the junior high. The junior high goes in tandem some cases, in some cases it doesn't. But on that standpoint, hopefully we'll see everyone on football games, cross-country matches, soccer, girls and boys soccer. So our students, our Finneytown is running hard and playing hard. I hear great things about our golf program as well. So let's not forget about golf. If I forgot anybody.
This looks amazing, by the way.
Gerald did a great job.
Gerald is crushing it. Speaking of Gerald, Gerald is helping, or Mr. Wormack is helping with the Finneytown Crusaders. They are a youth football team that we actually have in Finneytown. He's trying to help Coach Rob get youth football back into Finneytown, and we had our first game and first home game this past Saturday at our home field, which is obviously Finneytown High School Stadium, or McNulty Stadium. It went off great. I can't even remember, without a hitch. The coaches worked their tails off, and everyone had a good time. Our teams that we have, unfortunately, they didn't do so well against the Evanston team, but Evanston has been around for many years, while Finneytown is now just putting themselves together. So we got some growing to do, and hopefully, as years progress, we'll do a great feat or two. Tatum. We'll do a great feat or two, Coach Tatum and his junior high and high school teams as well. So, again, thank you to Coach Womack for the use of the field. The PTA, as Dr. Banks mentioned, the PTA is starting to going off, hitting the ground running with the school year running. If you have, let me start off with the PTA, the elementary PTA. They did the breakfast, as you guys saw. We had a small group of volunteers that helped get the breakfast for the admin and for the teachers for both buildings. They are always in need of help support, making casseroles and everything else. I think that's something that we need to do better to help our PTA, help our teachers, help our administration. With that, also the high school or the secondary campus PTA, they're off and running too. They already have some nominations for the mayor of Finneytown. Those proceeds for the mayor of Finneytown goes to the Apple Prom. So if you have a pet that you think will be a great mayor of Finneytown, that can run Finneytown better than the five of us are running,
Vote for Luna.
put them in, put their nominations in, and again, vote for them through your donations. And hopefully our pups will do a better job. And that one community, I think we got Lizard. Bearded Dragon.
Bearded Dragon.
And hopefully one of them will do a better job than the five of us. And finally, the Finneytown Alumni Network, or the FAN. First off, please be a fan of the FAN. You don't just have to be alumni. Anyone that has connections for Finneytown or love of Finneytown, you can be a member at finneytownalumni.org. The FAN is helping with the groundbreaking. They're helping with the tours that will happen before the fun shoveling that we will be doing. And there will also be activities and booths that will be surrounding the area when we get to this, before we get into the stadium. Also, that weekend, so that's that Friday. That Saturday, there's also a golf scramble. I think I heard all teams are filled, so good for Mike. And then there's at 5 o'clock at the PAC, there will be a legacy ceremony, and we're heading High Grain afterwards at 9 p.m. to celebrate Finneytown and all the legacies. Actually, the people that were inducted in the Hall of Fame for that. And I think I'm now finished.
All right.
All right, well, you touched on a lot of the things that I was going to say, but once again, I'm sorry for arriving late. My son had his first cross-country meet and I actually lost my voice, so he placed 10th out of 80 boys, so super exciting, a lot of energy, a lot of fun. Kudos to Mr. Saunders. I would like to say welcome to the Finneytown, to the new staff. I was able to attend the breakfast. It was super nice to see everybody. Ooh, I'm running out of breath.
Did you run?
No, I was kind of running. I was, yeah. So welcome to the new staff. It was good to see some familiar faces as well as some new faces. So welcome to Finneytown for the new employees, and we're glad you chose Finneytown. I did attend the FMPA meeting last week. They just launched a new online clothing merch store, and it's super awesome. It's all customized for our band and our orchestra. So if you get a chance, take a look at the website. 10% of the proceeds benefit the organization. They are still needing to fill a couple of positions. They're pancake breakfast rep, memberships, and butter braids. So if you're interested in that, please reach out to April Bruder, and she can get you set up for that. The next meeting will take place on September 9th at 7. Yeah, we got a lot of great events. Fall sports kickoff was awesome. Energy was through the roof. Everybody was super excited to get back to the groove and get back into the sports. The back to school bash went well for the PTA. A lot of smiling faces, a lot of staff members that were present. So thanks to everybody for that. Yeah, we're looking forward to a great 24-25 school year. So it's exciting.
I need to be rude for a second. I
Yeah.
apologize. I forgot to mention the open house. You and your team did a great
Oh.
job. I had the opportunity to bounce back and forth from the elementary school, which that was fun to go back and forth. But everyone did a great job. All your staff, all your teachers, your principals were on top of it. Very easy to communicate, even though they were being pulled in 500 directions. Every question I had for your principals, they still made the time to talk to public parents. Not just me, but public parents. So I want to thank you, your staff, and your teachers, and everyone for pulling off a great, very smooth open house.
100% goes all to the building. The building's district office is not really involved in the open house. We just go and I took pictures, which were not as good as Eric's, but I took pictures. And but yes, I agree. I concur. They did a great job hosting our administration and staff in both buildings. It was neat to see. And like you said, with the kickoff events and the other events, the high energy, yeah, it felt good.
It was
So
fun.
I appreciate
Yeah.
that. Thanks, Steph.
All right. Anything else for board coordination? Okay. We can move on then to item 9, financial matters. We have the adoption of the consent calendar. Do I have a motion?
I'll second.
All right, Mr. Oliverio.
Okay, the monthly financial report for July. General fund, total revenues in the month of July were $5,114,329. Approximately $4.3 million of that was local property tax collections. Total expenditures for the month of July in the general fund, $2,100,835. I normally point out that that does include 2 payrolls in the month of July. We'll pay on July 1st and July 31st each year. Cash balance in the general fund at the end of July, $17,001,757. Item B, depository investment balances as of July 31st, 2024. U.S. Bank, $233,226. U.S. Bank Construction Fund, $2,852,703. Star Ohio main account, $27,944,586. Star Ohio Construction Fund number 2, $3,183,518. Star Ohio Construction number 1, $2,027,422. And our Star Ohio State Share Fund, $2,275,348. Item C, interest earned on depository and investment accounts for July. General fund interest income was $118,174. And construction fund interest income for the month, $24,200. Item D is the monthly bond project spending and commitment report. So the total amount available, and this shows both Phase 1 and Phase 2, at this point stands at $61,062,000 approximately. Of course, we're continuing to earn interest income, so that amount continues to increase over time. We've expended $24,871,000 to this point. We have open purchase orders currently of $4,917,000, and we have an available unencumbered balance at this point of just over $31 million. So a large part of that will be encumbered and obligated after we start getting bids back on secondary project. Items have been put out to bid. The first package did go out, and there'll be a second package to go out a little bit later, but there's certain lead items that they need to get in production so that we won't be delayed in terms of our construction schedule. So that's where we stand. Item E is a recommendation to approve several payments that are listed here. There's a purchase order for which there weren't POs in place, but invoices have been received. So anyway, appreciate it if you approve those. That's all I have.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions?
Do legal expenses usually require a purchase order?
Every expenditure does. Yeah.
All right, hearing no discussion, can I have a roll call vote, please?
Ms. McMullen?
Yes.
Mr. Ray?
Yep.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Ms. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Plow?
Item passes. All right, moving on to item 10, superintendent's recommendations. Do I have a motion to adopt the consent calendar? I'll second.
So items A and B are addressing resignations and approval of contracts for this current school year. Item C is approval of our extended days. We kept consistent with those, but that's another part of the conversation in terms of the calendar. If we're able to make more time within the school year for some of that work, we may be able to reduce those costs in the future and look at that differently. So item D is our substitute teacher list for your approval. E is our new staff orientation, compensating our employees for their time for that. Item F is the approval for this year's sub rates. We did decide to stay consistent with those at this point, and we'll continue to evaluate our bill rate, and if we need to make an adjustment, we will.
It's pretty competitive, I'd say.
I was going to
checked
ask,
it, yeah.
is there a comprehensive list from Sub Solutions of all the other districts?
We get that annually.
Yeah.
We sit down and we look at it,
Okay.
and we look at our fill rate from the previous year and make a determination. And so at this point, we decided to stay consistent. We can change that at any time if we feel like we're not being competitive and not able to fill our sub positions.
So what is a sub, so first question, how long is a day for a daily sub?
So it's the school day, so it starts to the end.
Which is hours?
Hours, it just depends on which building, because the hours are different in the building.
So do we say 8 as an average or?
No, 7.
6 and a half.
7 and a half. 7 and a half and 1.
So we pay a substitute secretary more than we pay a substitute teacher? If the secretary is $16 an hour, substitute teacher's less than 16 an hour? It's like 7 hours at 16 is 112. So,
Okay.
and a building sub, what's the difference, I guess, between a long-term sub?
You're working every day in the same building consistently versus different routines.
And they have to be licensed in that area, correct, Dr. Banks?
No,
you don't.
they don't.
and the sub coverage has, the rules around subs have changed. Now, the only requirement is a high school diploma. But the difference between a building sub is they're with us all year and they fill whatever vacancy is that day. A long-term sub is somebody who's filling a consistent leave, like a maternity leave or a medical leave, and that person is teaching the same class every day for an extended
Are
period.
they
No
then
licensure.
working at home after hours? Are they grading, are they?
That's a good point.
Like the extra, are they doing extra work that a daily sub is not doing?
That is possible, yes.
Okay, because I'm looking at a $2 an hour difference between a daily sub and a long-term sub, and I'm not sure that's.
I think that's the
Right.
only one that seems like I would maybe.
Can I ask a clarifying? So the long-term sub, none of these require licensure in the area. So you could even have a long-term sub that would last 3 or 4 months, and now by Ohio law, you don't have to be licensed.
So
Is that correct?
last spring, we
Yes.
had a math algebra teacher out for an extended period. The sub we had in there, because we could not find somebody licensed in that area. Yes.
So they
We were
could
able
sub the
to
whole
fill it,
year.
But not with somebody who had,
Like they could even sub the entire school year and not be licensed in that area.
Correct.
Huh.
yes,
Okay, I didn't realize that.
yeah,
Okay.
It's always been that way.
yeah. And the
No,
shortage
but
is
it's- I
real.
think it's different, right?
They changed it
It changed
recently.
during
Last
COVID
day.
around
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
the high school diploma and stuff
Yeah.
like that, yeah.
but you still didn't have to be. That's how I subbed in the Kingtown. I had a bachelor's degree, but I didn't know anything about language arts, but that's how I became a long-term sub.
Really? So you said there was never a licensure?
Yeah, that was 20 years ago.
And there's some people who have the experience, but not necessarily the bachelor's degree. So there have been some really good subs without the
Yeah.
licensure. So
And I think it's
we
a
don't
really
want to
good thing. I was
discredit
just,
them.
I think it's,
Yeah.
I'm totally fine with that.
I just think it might be worth more than
Curious.
$2 an hour
Yeah.
more
Yeah,
than a daily
that's something to
substitute
think about,
teacher.
for sure.
Can we,
pretty competitive, though.
can we, that's a good valid point, Jamie. Can we discuss that when we sit down with the finance committee?
Yeah, I don't think there'd be any reason to change it if as long as we're still competitive.
But
And
I think
would-
you have to look at competitive, because we might be charging the same as Wyoming or schools like that, and.
Well, Wyoming's
people-
less, I'm sure, by like probably 20, 25 bucks an hour.
So just, we need to look at the community, the people that we're pulling from, because they may be in very different situations and are willing to take a job for $80 a day. And people might not be willing to work for,
And
Might not be
might not be able to
I
work for
definitely
$15
agree
an
with
hour
your
with no
concerns.
benefits.
Dr. Banks, would you mind sending the comparatives to us so we can take a look? But I trust your judgment.
Yeah. The next item is the approval of our agreement with Springfield Township for the continuation of our SRO, which we had shared with Officer Summy. Item H is approval for consult contract for an intervention specialist that serves St. Xavier High School, that just is employed through us, because that happens. Item I is a resolution around the employment of substitute teachers. And then item J is the acceptance of donations. We received a cash donation of $2,000 to the Finneytown Social Work Fund for student basic necessities from the neediest kids of all. They're very generous. We get that annually in some form and amount. A cash donation of $100 to the Finneytown High School Athletic Department from the Thank you. Firm, located at 9227 Linton Road. And then a cash donation of $1,000 to the Finneytown High School Athletic Department football program from the Finneytown Schools Educational Foundation. And last, a cash donation of $1,000 to the Finneytown High School Athletic Department football program from the NFL Foundation. And then item K is the carry-on item with the policies listed for final approval and adoption.
So just a quick question on H, the money that we're paying for St. X. Is that per state law, another?
It's federal dollars that we filter through us and are assigned based on the non-publics that
Interesting.
are within our boundaries.
Federal dollars. So
So-
we wouldn't get those dollars if we didn't.
Is this
have-
money that we would have gotten anyway and not, if we weren't giving it to them, or is it money that's assigned to them and just run through us as a public body?
No, we don't have any access to that money strictly
Okay.
for St.
So it's not coming out of our budget, again, paying the.
We
Okay,
just,
That's a good
we
distinction.
just account
Okay.
for it and make sure all the documentation is in place for it.
If you have an issue with it, take it up with your.
Sorry.
Please talk to the federal government about that one.
Good luck.
No, I just want to appreciate that we're letting Roger assuming, is that right? The resource, G.
Oh,
Res-
Officer Summy, yeah.
Yeah, I've been told that he sat down with Mr. Anderson, I'll try it again, and helped make sure that our cameras were a little more up to date and working and everything. And so the extra mile that he goes is really appreciated. So we're lucky to have him come back this year.
He was the officer at graduation.
Yes.
I met him. Wonderful. He is an asset to the community.
Well, let's hope he sticks around for a bit, because we seem to be changing SROs every year. I'm sure it's a tough job. but-
Yeah,
He was at the back to school bash too, yeah.
he should have.
Any other questions? Hearing none. Can I have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Ray?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Ms. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Cloud?
Yes.
Ms. McMullen?
Yes.
Item passes. Moving on to item 11, the adoption of a new and revised policy. This policy is the same policy that, is this the, just make sure, yes, this is the communication policy that we have already read once, and this would be the second reading of it. I'm not going to read it since it's long and it's the second time, but do I have a motion for discussion?
So moved.
For discussion?
Discussion and approval.
Well,
It's both.
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion?
Can I say a few things?
Yeah.
So I read over the policy. One of the first things is reading over the policy, initially it's difficult to tell exactly what the policy is saying. However, I think the main idea of the policy is in like line 5. Individual board members reserve the right to obtain information affecting the board's decisions from any source, including from employees. So that seems to be like the gist of the policy. And I sort of see some of the rationale behind that, because we have had some discussion as a board, some of those publicly, about wanting to know what our staff is feeling. And we've had some discussion about staff surveys, and we've had interactions, and some of them I think have even been based on misunderstandings on, at least on my part, on what the role of a board member is, and whether a board member should be able to go through a school with or without accompaniment. And of course, we need to have someone with us from the district. We can't just walk around the school freely like board members have in other districts. They end up on the news. So I think that, yeah, so there have been some discussion. I think we all agree that we do want to know more from our staff about what their experience is as a teacher and how the policies and actions of our administration are affecting them. I will say my main question that I have, and this might be for Jamie and Seth, because you guys helped, I think you guys were kind of the main ones developing this, is there's no repercussions whether they choose to speak to a board member or not. I guess my question is, this policy seems to prohibit speaking about almost anything based on the second to last sentence, because it says other complaints. So if it's not about complaints, then what are we speaking about? And that's my main question. Is it's so, I mean, it says individual personalities, personnel concerns, student educational records, other complaints. I mean, we can already speak to them about things that are just, we incidentally run into them. So my question is, if someone comes up to me and they're a staff member, the main thing they're probably going to say is, so-and-so is giving me a hard time, or I really don't like this particular district policy. Those things sound like complaints. So when it says complaints, does that mean like formal complaints that they want considered as like as part of the grievance procedure, or just complaints in general? Because I think a lot of the things that we might hear about would be complaints, probably about a specific student or a specific staff member or a specific policy. I don't think it would be education records, because that's FERPA. But personnel concerns and individual personalities, I could definitely see those things coming up. I think if we can make it clear what other complaints well, it says not other complaints too. So what would they be speaking to us about? What's the kind of the idea behind the policy?
I think we talked about the wording on this one.
I missed the
that
board retreat, so if
piece.
there was discussion there about this, then I missed that. But
I don't
if you
remember
could fill me
when.
in.
Was it official or formal? It was when we did the first reading. Was it formal complaints or official complaints, or something around that wording? It was to avoid
I think I asked that maybe
grievances.
something to the respect of formal, like don't expect something's going to happen from it. I think that's what the policy is trying to say, is don't expect this is your official report of whatever your grievance is. I think that's what the policy
Yeah,
is
this
trying to
is-
say.
Well, we're definitely not
Not,
involved in grievances.
Yeah,
That is
grievances
not
is in
Yeah, and
here.
that's what makes it really clear.
like
Yeah.
official formal grievances. We are
Yeah.
not involved in.
I think the main purpose of this is so staff is not penalized for speaking with board members. I think that was the intention behind it.
And also, they're not penalized for not
Yeah.
speaking to board members.
Yeah.
But they could be
It's-
penalized if they shared about individual personalities or personnel concerns. Right? So this would mean they could, if we changed it to formal complaints, they could speak about district policies or building
Yes.
policies that are a concern to them.
Yes,
Correct?
I think formal would be
Okay.
good to add in there. I think
Okay.
the word should not discuss is a little bit more of leaving it up to interpretation and those gray areas
That's
that
a
are a
good
little bit
point.
messy, which is why I like using should right there. But I do think formal or official complaints should be the wording there.
It would almost need to say something like, put a period after records, and it would almost need to say, no discussion with a board member shall constitute an official complaint or grievance.
The biggest issue I have with this policy, it takes away the chain of command. Because they can come to us even without the assistant principal, the principal, and everyone else knowing. If we are more involved, like letter C in the current policy, if we're more involved, we have that opportunity. Now, I do agree with the language that the teacher should not, the staff member should not be penalized when they talk to us. I agree with that part of the language. But for the complete, and I've said this in multiple meetings, and unfortunately, Jamie and I couldn't come to some sort of a compromise on this. But we did try to work through it, and I have no ill will against you.
Mhm.
Thank you. But the issue is it doesn't, if they follow the chain of command, like every business, every location, instead of jumping around and everything else, because we don't want to get into the, to use the phrase, we don't want to get into the weeds of everything. We need to know the broad strokes of this. By following the chain of command to make sure that the educator that has the issue, one, we don't get to know more than we're supposed to, because that might put us liable on something that we shouldn't be, since we are where we're at. But by keeping in the chain of command, it is respectful for the people of the opportunity, gives the opportunity to fix what needs to be, when and where it needs to be fixed. Does that make sense? Plus, they have the opportunity to go into the union, and like they did a couple of months ago, well, many months ago, but a couple times during our meeting, they had a show of force showing up there very quietly, but as life goes on, if they need to get louder, they could have gone louder with the support of the union. So, with that said, I feel that we still need to have some change of command going through it.
And I think part of our discussion was that was where we came in. We need to ask the teachers, have you taken this up? I won't refer to a specific situation. I knew about it in October, right? I kept saying, have you gone up through the chain of command? It eventually came public in May. I don't remember what it was. I didn't say anything about it because I kept saying, I cannot say anything about this until this comes to the board through the proper chain of command. That's on us to encourage the teachers, if they do come to us, have you gone up through? Yes, I have. Yes, I have. And if they don't think it's been dealt with appropriately, then we should be the ones maybe asking about it, but not just immediately running, so-and-so said X, this needs to be fixed. That's not our role. But if they think they've gone through the chain and it hasn't been addressed, not everything's a union issue either. So the union can't be bringing non-contractual things, right, or not stuff that's in their contract or the union's purview. There are things that are outside of that. I just think people talk. There's nothing on us as board members. We can't be held accountable for not following the communication policy.
No.
Right, the voters are the ones that tell us, okay, you broke the communication policy, I'm not going to vote for you in the next election.
That's it.
Yeah, and as I mentioned before, it's tough because we do life with the community. You know, some of these staff members that report to work, you know, their kids are playing soccer with us. We're doing all kind of activities with them, so things come up. So I want this to be put in place so people aren't penalized for it, though. I think there needs to be something in place so that
I do want
staff.
to point out, nobody has ever been penalized because
Right, I
conversations
know.
have been happening
For
with the
sure,
board for
for
a
sure.
while. And nobody, I
But
just
maybe
like,
people would feel
because
more
that keeps
comfortable.
coming up.
Yeah.
And they're,
Well, it may not have happened, but there's a fear that it will happen.
Or
And I
maybe
think-
that may be, but yeah.
I think there's a few things to note. One, I work for a big, global, huge corporation. I have the very corporate background. I have bosses from well above me coming and talking to me about details. They'll get into the nitty gritty. They will ask those questions. And it's sometimes just to understand the context because they know I am the expert on that specific issue. So they know that they can come to me to get the details and get the better understanding. And sometimes that is very helpful. It's a high performance organization. We know that we can go to the person that has the information. And those conversations aren't expected to replace the chain of command. Very clearly, I expect the chain of command to still be followed, and I will be enforcing it when I talk to people. Have you followed the chain of command? I think the difference is I have had staff come up to me at events where I am there with my kid, dropping off, anything. I've had people in the school drop-off and pickup line say, I don't know if it's really important to say this to you, but... And just that hesitation to tell me their feedback on something going on, even if it's just feedback. I want that feedback. I want them to feel open, like they can communicate. And I think by doing that, you're going to get more of a balance versus the people who are just brave enough to say what they want without fear of any repercussions. You're going to get more of an open-ended response. And that one was positive. It was a positive feedback that they're like, I don't know if this is appropriate for me to tell you. I was like, well, yeah, I want to hear those.
Can I say, I think even if we do change the policy, most staff members are probably not going to have conversation with us because even if they're not being formally punished, there's definitely a fear, like as a teacher, you don't want to do anything that's going to make your principal and admin upset because you care about your job. So even if there's a fear of making an admin upset, which I think very well could happen from a teacher talking to a board member, there might not be a formal repercussion, but there could be informal ones. So I think this might just have the effect of those few that are upset or the few that are already talking to board members
But
feeling
that's
more
where the
comfortable.
union comes in then.
Yeah, I think the
Once there's
unions
a
are good.
violation of a policy,
Yeah, but I'm
the
saying,
union can protect.
but I'm saying they still might not. We might not hear from board members.
We may not hear from all of them, that's
We're
fine.
not going to hear
Depends
from
on your
them.
comfort level, too.
I respectfully, I agree with half of it and just respectfully disagree with the other half. And this is what my argument has been since, I think, January. If we are more involved, that's why we have the calendar that we have. But if we are more involved, not just going to the concessions, but are there, and I couldn't do it, I admit, I couldn't do the breakfast, but if we were there at the breakfast, they see us serving here's our casserole, and they see us involved, not just changing the policy, but they see us involved, I guarantee you they will have trust. Because Jamie's example of something that happened in March and finally finding out in May or something.
It was a lot longer.
Yeah, sorry, November, wasn't it? All right, so November and May, I have heard stuff like that, and I was trying to make sure they followed the chain of command. And one of them actually just blew up. I mean, really blew up. But at the same time, as sad as frustrated as I was, I couldn't do anything about it. But there is also the flow of what needs to happen the right way. And have an educator accidentally tell us something that we're not supposed to know, that puts us liable in a situation that we don't really want to be in as well. But we have had, if I may, we've had, and Eddie, I apologize, but the four of us had roundabout conversations and Jamie and I have had roundabout conversations probably a lot longer than that too. So for expedience's sake, unless, I think we're going to start going in circles if we keep going.
I agree.
So my proposal was, instead of should not have the purpose of effect of circumventing established grievance procedures, switch that out for communications with board members shall not, or no And no conversation with a board member shall constitute an official complaint or grievance. I think that makes it a little bit clearer.
I think
I'm not
that's
sure where to put
already
that.
in here.
But
There
it's
is
not-
wording about the official grievance process.
Yeah, but it says should not have the purpose or effect of, or do not, like should not have is a little wispy.
So the attorney was good with this, just so I can throw that out there.
Yeah, I think we're
I'm
getting
just saying,
to.
I'm saying I would like to, I'm saying I think the policy is fine, I think the intentions I agree with. I would just change the wording there and I would get rid of other complaints in that last sentence there because I think it's vague. Or formal complaints, we could put formal in there, that's fine.
I will move to add the word formal between other and complaints. I think the rest of the policy covers it if you want to do a separate motion for that, but I will motion to add the word formal between other and complaints. Would anybody like to second that?
Second.
Okay. Do we need a separate vote on amending it before we vote on it, or do we just vote on it as a
I
whole?
think if you change it, this becomes a first reading.
Does it be, is it
Changing
just
one
one word?
word?
Because I thought it was not.
If you change
Okay, well then
the meaning, you would have.
It's not changing the meaning.
Well, then why would
it just
change the
clarifies
word?
it. It doesn't change meaning, it changes, it clarifies.
Okay, you're saying clarification.
I think it's a clarification.
I'm not, I
I think
can't
it
answer
may-
that for sure.
Okay.
Do you
Well
have?
then, if that's, if,
My understanding is it would be then a first read, because it
Okay.
would be an amended policy.
then I withdraw my motion.
Now, could we have a special meeting a couple days from now and final, someone wants?
We would have to move to table it, and we've talked about this one several times, so
No,
I would rather.
No, I mean, could now be the first reading and we could have a second, we don't have to wait till the next board meeting, I mean.
No.
we
I
could
would
together
rather
next
get this
special.
policy done, we've talked about it so many
No,
times.
I mean, I think it's fine, I think the word formal, and I have a little issue with that last sentence, but I think it needs to be clear. It does not constitute, not that it should not have the purpose, but it does not constitute an official complaint or grievance.
Okay. Noted. I withdraw my, knowing that it would be a first reading, then I withdraw my motion.
It's so vague, other complaints, like, they're not gonna know what they can complain. The word formal is what we need, so I'll vote yes with formal, but I have to have formal in there. And we should not put this into effect without that word, because if they read this, other complaints, what the heck am I talking about? I'm not complaining.
Do I hear a motion to add the word formal?
I'd like to move that the word formal and then approve it with the word, just the word formal.
Do we have a second? Okay, hearing none, we're going to vote on the policy as it is. Do we have any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, let's do a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Reed,
No.
Ms. Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Plow,
No.
Ms. McMullen,
Yes.
Mr. Ray.
Yes.
Item passes. I will also note that if we do want to make amendments, we can always bring them up.
I'd be happy to add
As
the
we
word
go.
formal there because it would be needed.
I would be in support of that. Okay, moving on to item 12, review of action steps. I did not write down everyone's, but I know I noted the sub-comparatives for Dr. Banks. We need to update the board handbook, and maybe that would be a great session to discuss any need between you and I, or maybe me and Jalecia, we can meet to do that. So Jalecia and I will take that one. Unless anyone else wants to do it.
The handbook?
Yeah. Cool, you can take one of our spots. All right, and then I was gonna look at the concessions and propose a date to the board for us to do as a group. Were there any other follow-ups?
I did want to notate also that there will be no school on September 2nd for Labor Day and a staff in service on September 20th. So to make arrangements for sitters and things like that.
Thank you for that.
And I will send out the administrative guidelines regarding the amended communication policy to the board members.
What does that mean? Sorry.
So the administrative guidelines are, Seth and I met on those. Those are what are developed by the superintendent to what it looks like in place,
Okay.
that policy in practice. And so guidelines to
That's great.
With the
because
chain of
I think that would be
command is-
needed
yes.
because
the board, staff, and
it comes across as confusion.
community. They're consistent across the board, so
And we'll get a copy of that.
I'll send it to you guys.
Is it already written up?
Yep, I have it here.
Okay.
I have
That
it.
was,
We had
um,
the assumption that it was going to have.
That was one of the follow-ups from the retreat.
I missed that, okay.
Okay. Any other action items? Okay. Then we will move to number 13, executive session. This is in accordance with ORC 121.22G2 to consider the disposition of property, since disclosure at this time would give an unfair competitive or bargaining advantage to persons whose personal private interest is adverse to the general public interest. I will note that after that point, we are just going to do a quick announcement. I'll just go ahead and do that now. There is no announcement. I'm assuming that is to say the next board meeting is going to be held here at the Brent Board Office Meeting Room. Open forum will begin at 6, regular meeting at 6:30 on Monday. 16th, September 16th.
Are we moving the regular report? Yeah, we did
Yeah,
schedule it.
we did not schedule one. Do we have a need for a special meeting at this time? Because we have the groundbreaking coming up and we did
I don't have my
quite a
calendar with me,
bit.
so I won't be able to give any input. My phone is,
Okay. I didn't see a need for one.
if we don't need one, then. all
We
right.
will
Schedule
skip-
one if it needs.
Yep.
if it's needed.
All right, no special meeting, regular meeting Monday, September 16th. I'm sorry, I already got it.
Date.
September 16th. Okay,
I will move to go into executive session.
all right. Do we have a second?
Awesome.
All right, can I have a roll call, please?
Ms. Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Prout,
Yes.
Ms. McMillan, excuse me,
Yes.
Mr. Ray,
Yes.
Mr. Reed.
Yeah.
All right, we are in executive session. Thank you, everyone.
Morning, Dave Stan.